Recording in progress.
Okay, you're recording.
You all set, Chris?
Yep.
Does it sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, awesome. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Economic Development Subcommittee meeting for August 16th to order, time being 5:50. Note to residents, all citizens are welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. Meetings are also live streamed and archived by Franklin TV on the Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel. Meetings are also shown live on repeat on Comcast Channel 11 and Verizon Channel 29, and I think I read somewhere that they're going to change maybe soon. Comcast only will change, so everybody keep an eye out for that. In an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens are welcome to continue to participate remotely via phone or Zoom. The call-in number is 1-929-205-6099. I don't even have to look at it for that. Yeah. Meeting ID number is 810-3387-0118, and then press the pound number. So tonight we are going to review a proposed sidewalk snow removal bylaw, and I know we've done this multiple times. It's been on the town council agenda, I think you said 4 years now, Jamie?
I think it's been about 2 terms, yeah. This would be the
Yeah,
second term.
and we're just, Brutus came up with a map for us to take a look at, and he's here for guidance and more questions, I think, to answer more questions.
Yeah.
But I'll throw it over to Jamie.
Through you, Madam Chair, really quickly, Bruce is here. This is just a draft. The map was in the packet, just in case anybody at home is watching. franklinma.gov, you can go to the EDC calendar or the town calendar, and it's all right there. And I'll let Bruce explain some of the assumptions in here, but I think this is really defined by the council about the issues around snow removal, particularly I think around downtown. And so Brutus has some ideas for a conversation.
Okay.
And I think one thing, Madam Chair, I think we do all agree on is the old bylaw had all this narrative in writing that was hard to understand. It was like downtown parking. And
Yes,
so a
yes.
map, like we've done with downtown parking, I think we all agree that if we're ever going to do this as a community, like a map is a really good visual to help understand how snow removal happens. So.
Yeah, I find like a lot of people, I feel like the confusion is that people just don't know who's responsible for what.
Absolutely.
And that's why maybe some of the sidewalks don't get cleaned off in time and people can't get to the train station.
Right.
But, because nobody really knows,
Right.
right?
This is other than to see, like, oh, that's my street. I have to do something. I don't have to do something. I think the map is the easy piece.
Right.
But as you're about to learn, we do a lot more than downtown, right? And so
Yes.
sidewalks. We have a lot of sidewalks in the community, and I guess I'll just let Brutus kind of walk through what he's got here.
38 miles of sidewalks.
38 miles.
Well, that's what is up in this
Yeah.
corner here, right? Yeah, okay, Brutus.
Thank you. So, as confusing as this is, sometimes I still get confused with a parking plan, but that's okay. I might have changed the sign down there once or twice in the downtown area, but that's okay. Just to give you a little backup, I'm just kind of going off my head, but didn't really prepare a PowerPoint tonight. But, so sidewalks in Franklin and our whole snow removal policy is basically tier number 3. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do when we do snow removal operation is obviously keep the roads open, so we can get the emergency vehicles. That's what you gotta remember. We're getting emergency vehicles around town. Secondly, would be take care of town buildings, including schools, so we maintain all them. The third tier which is sidewalks, and as sidewalks is, I don't want to say confusing. It's difficult. There's a lot of different things that go into it. So I've been here almost 18 years, and there's a lot of sidewalks in Franklin. We have a list of sidewalks that was established before I was ever here, which is which are the ones that we do. That was agreed upon between obviously administration, I assume the council at the time, and obviously public safety and the school department, which ones need to be done. So in my time here, we have never added another sidewalk. And I give it to you example, we now do Chestnut, Pleasant Street, we built those sidewalks, we haven't added those. I mean, that's not ones that we're required to do or requested. We actually say we sometimes requested to them, but it's not,
Right,
really- it's not
right.
required. If we get to them, we do.
Because
But-
we have more sidewalks now than we had before.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the one thing that we did do, and this map doesn't show, we got a lot of maps, but I did work with the school, because the issue that we have here in Franklin is we have a lot of roads, and we're a community that we rely on a lot of outside contractors to help plow our roads. And then, but the same guys that do the plowing of the roads, my guys, the DPW guys, they're the ones that have to go get the snow removal machines. So we have to get those other three done, depending on the length of the storm, the amount of the storm, it could be 3 to 5 days, as we saw some year. Last year was easy, we had it done the same day, because no snow.
There wasn't much snow, no.
But we go
Yeah.
back to other years, if, if we get a foot of snow, it might be 3 or 4 days before we get all the sidewalks done. Additionally, one thing I did work in the school department, because they're obviously, the parents are the biggest people that call up about sidewalks not being done, is we created like a mini priority area, so we went over to sidewalks, and we looked at, so like before we get all of, Oak Street, we want to get the areas around the school, instead of being able to walk all the way down the street, so we get back into town. So we prioritize that. But ultimately, it comes down to, it takes 3 to 5 days to do it. And, in the past, there was a bylaw that says that folks, in the downtown area had to shovel, but there is no requirement now. There's no requirement for anybody to do any work on their sidewalks. There's nothing.
Right, because it was, we had 12 hours to do it, but it was unenforceable. There wasn't any fines and nobody enforced it, is what
Well,
I.
there was a $25 fine, but no one was enforced, and it was very
Okay.
vague, and it was, so the council a number of years ago got rid of that.
Right.
Just to clean it
Yeah.
up. So as of right now, there's nothing that anybody has to do on any sidewalk. Now, with that said, some businesses come out and they take care of their sidewalks downtown. Some businesses do not. We try to get to the downtown, it's a pretty busy area. I think, once we get a lot of snow downtown, if we have a couple of storms, we'll go down and clean up.
Yes.
Afterwards, we take all the snow out of, downtown. That's a day process. But, depending on the amount of snow, when we get there, time of year, that could be 1 day after the storm, or it could be 3 days after the storm. So that's what we have to do what we're up against. So one of the proposals, well, we've talked about a couple of things. Initially, I talked about one of the easiest things to do would be to say, all commercial properties or retail properties that are on the established sidewalk routes or elsewhere in town, they need to do the sidewalks in front of the house. And my take on that is most, and I'm not saying everybody, but most commercial properties, they're already hiring a contractor to do their parking lots. So I'll just throw out like the Taco Bell or something down there. They're gonna do the parking lot. If the owner says, you're gonna do the sidewalk out front, they're gonna do it. It's not that big of a deal. And if we looked at all those properties, I ran the times, it's basically 20% of the sidewalks that I do. So if that was gonna be done, required by the town, if they had to do it, that would make my efficiency 20% better. So like I could get down to Pond Street quicker, down to the Kennedy School, or, Parmenter, it would happen faster. So that would help the town out in the public works. The other thing we looked at is looking at the downtown area, and this kind of shows different areas, a little highlighted, that we could say, okay, you're required in this area to go ahead and do your sidewalks. And put the, it's a burden like anything else, don't get me wrong, but it goes on the business. But I gotta believe, as a business owner, you kind of want your sidewalks open, and a lot of folks, they do come out and do their sidewalks. And, but I can understand it's also frustrating for some business, because you have my one guy out there does all the sidewalk, and then the guy next to it doesn't. We go down there, and we'll clean up as best we can until we get the downtown done. And then also you get into the commuters, where they park, and they want to walk over and do things.
Right.
And I think that's very important too. It really, and I'm sincere about this, it drives me crazy, like 2 days after a storm, and I'm going down 140, and particularly the section coming out of downtown, up this way, and there's people walking in the road.
In the road,
And
yeah.
it's tough. And I feel so, because that's where you tend to get a lot of traffic, and I feel bad for these folks. And we're trying to get as best we can. We did purchase a new sidewalk machine.
Okay.
As you know, $180,000. I mean, they are an investment.
And you have to pay somebody to drive it too.
Yeah, well, it's our folks, but it's just a timing.
It's just
but-
like another thing.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. So if we had something that was in place that people wanted to do, I think that it would be benefit, to the town. I think it's a benefit to the business for the most part. I mean, I mean, I'll sit here and say it right now, people are gonna go like, oh, I can't afford it, you know, I got the small business, I can't do this, you're putting another burden on me. But you also gotta look at it as we're a sense of community too. You know, that's like me saying, well, I can't do the sidewalks because I don't wanna do it. You know, you can't. We're all trying to we're all trying to be in the right space at the right time to get it done. So, and I think, you know, if we came up with some language that's reasonable, you know, I mean, it doesn't have to be 20 minutes after the storm's over, but, you know, within, you know, a business day or something like that. And then the only other final one I will throw this out here is, one area that I've gotten a lot of calls from, and it's not even our road, it's the state highway, and it's, westbound, it's actually, I believe the building, the Westerly, that, is that in Franklin?
Yeah.
It's right in line. I get a lot of calls from those folks because they do use the commuter station.
Okay.
And that's not plowed up there. It's, you know, that's not even a road, it's not, you know, but that's one area, you know, and that does make complete sense to me, because, I mean, that's what the state's trying to do. You're building high-density housing next to rail stations, so people
Right.
can walk.
Walk,
And it's less than a
yes.
half mile, but
Yes.
we're not clearing the sidewalks. But up in that area, most of those properties are commercial, so it could, you know, whoever owns it could be having it done. But that's never been added to me either. On the one
Okay,
hand,
all right.
and you gotta know, if I had the money, the resources, and the people, I would do a whole lot more sidewalks if we could, but it's like anything else, we only can do so much. So that's where I'm at. So I'm just, you know, I just have a dialogue and see what you guys think of some of these things.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
Through you, Chair, the only thing I, you know, it's tough. You know, we did a poll recently, and I don't have the actual data, it was just a meeting in person about other communities that have a responsibility in your downtown core
Yeah.
from business owners and residents, right? It's a little harder sometimes, I think, too, there was some rigidity before the bylaw was repealed about, well, we're a resident, we don't do that, but a business has to. You know, there's not a lot of spaces where it's business, residents, residents, business, residents, business, residents, but I think if we're concentrating around the urban core here in downtown and/or Franklin Crossing, you know, I think there is a civic responsibility somewhere, somehow, where a lot of communities do have, you know, the ability, you know, where they do have on the books like a certain jurisdiction. And I'm thinking from zoning, because we're all very there with zoning. I'm thinking like downtown commercial and GR5, right? Just basically.
Yeah.
Maybe a little GR4 out towards Davis there. But, you know, it's up here on the map, mainly in pink in the center. You can see the common, you can see the triangle. And then we have green here, which would be the responsibility of the DPW. But I think the proposed sidewalk snow removal by property owner, the draft that Kate and Brutus came up with have property owner specifically labeled because it doesn't differentiate between a business or a resident. And, you know, I don't know, this might be a little hokey, but I feel like getting people outside and asking them to shovel their area in front, you know, Councilor Sheridan lives in downtown, right? Like, gets you out to, like, meet your neighbors. Like, it recognizes when someone may be isolated or not be able to do it. I think it actually brings some people more together and maybe builds a little bit on that community. It is a burden. There's no question, and it is a responsibility. I think, Madam Chair, the issue in the past has not focused so much on these dynamics, although I think we do need the support from the council and others to do stuff like that and say to the residents, even if you're a property owner, you gotta be a good neighbor and shovel your sidewalk, again, on those areas and those roads in the pink. But it's been about the fine, right? And do you give tickets out? And in the past, it was always, don't do it, we can't enforce it, don't do it. And I think if we're gonna ask people to do it, you don't try to go hard on people, just like we do with everything else. We send a warning, a reminder, a heads up, we send a copy of the bylaw. Brutus does this a lot, particularly on the ones where people push snow back into the road.
Yeah.
That is an issue that is actually more a public safety thing too. And we go out and we just educate people. But in the past, the downtown residents and business owners have, I think years ago, were like, you know, just really against the fines. But there really is no other enforcement mechanism. At some point, if somebody's just gonna get Brutus will stop by, give a warning, talk to them, educate them. If they just never do it, like, at some point, you know, there has to be some enforcement mechanism, otherwise people are just gonna keep doing it, right? And in the past, if I look here at the bylaw, you know, we had a $25 fine. Which I don't know, I don't really know the right number, but I feel like that's a reasonable amount, you know, and then maybe there has to be an escalation, like we do with other tickets, to 50, 100, and then, you know, and then it's just 100, 100, 100, or whatever numbers we come up with. But I think the fine was, Mr. Nutting, I mean, that was, I think, his issue is, he was always put in the position of, don't give out any fines, and I think before he left, he just got really frustrated with it and said, just take it off the books.
Yeah, I remember.
And I don't know if that's, I think since then, yeah, you were here for that. And I don't know if, you know, since then, you know, I don't know if it's gotten better. One thing Brutus didn't mention too with downtown is we usually get to that because of the school walkways, the roads, all the other priorities. Oftentimes in a big snowstorm, we're bringing haulers down
Right.
to haul out big, large chunks of snow. But really downtown needs to be done often. So
Yeah,
we
that's what I
don't
was gonna
have to
say.
do the haulers, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to be almost as if a school, it's almost has to be on the, in our view, like the same priority ladder as like the walkability within a distance to a school. And if business owners want people to come into their businesses to patronage, people have to feel a way to get in and safe.
Right,
So
right.
I know it's a burden on folks, but, you know,
There's-
obviously we're open to any ideas on the map.
Well, I actually thought like that it's really important to do it more often, and
Yeah.
I know that, Brutus, we don't plow until we get like 4 inches on the roads? Was it 3
Right.
inches? 3
We're supposed to
inches?
say 3, but you gotta know we go up before that.
Yeah, well, you put out salt and stuff, right?
Yeah, no, but yeah.
So,
we
you
don't
know,
plow.
it's like, we had people that were trying to get to the train station, like, and we had maybe 2.5 inches of snow.
Yep.
We don't plow then, but the sidewalk should be cleared for them. Right, so, I
Right.
mean, that, you know, people need to be able to get to the amenities they want to get to. They need to be able to walk down the street here and get to the grocery store, and they need to be able to get to the train station, and to get to the post office, and get to the bakery so they can get coffee, right? And that's what we're trying to promote, like a walkable city, a
Yeah.
walkable downtown.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, I think, you know, I've talked to obviously my peers out there, you know, with all this, and, you know, it's getting people on board, but you gotta understand too, it's not like we're looking at town-wide thing. Like some towns, you have to do all the sidewalks, it doesn't matter if you live in a subdivision. Well, if you live in some subdivision in Franklin, you got 200 feet of sidewalk to do.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a real burden. Most of the places, you know, don't take everything, you know, there'll be some person home, but they're only about 40 feet. The frontage is much smaller.
Yeah.
You're not doing this big space, so it's not a big deal. And we've all heard and, you know, put out there that, you know, there's an elderly person there or some other disability that, you know, that can't do it, why force them to do that? But I gotta tell you, you know, I've asked this question, how do you deal with it? Because that's the last thing that me or the police chief wanna do.
Right.
Is go give
Oh,
a
absolutely.
disabled person or an older person, you know, a ticket. We don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
What typically happens is folks, they take care of their neighbors, they really do.
Yeah.
You know, and that just, that comes out, and it ends up not really being a problem. There'll always be one, you know, and that's just how it happens. But, you know, we can deal with that. But for most part, folks do take care of their neighbors and something like that. And it's,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, I would hope that it would engage people a little bit too. Be outside, wave to somebody, check in on them. I know it's hokey, but, you know, like to your example, Councilor Hamlin, of 2.5 inches, and we're not out there plowing, it's really gonna pile up higher than that, because at 3 inches, we'll go out with the trucks, but that's on the main, that's on the 5-truck route first. That's on the main arteries, right? And you're really not getting to downtown till much later. Of course, it depends on school day, if, you know, some of that stuff too, but, so it could be more inches than that. And if somebody was required to have to do that 40 feet on their property, well, then you wouldn't have all that buildup. And
That's-
hopefully you wouldn't have to have the haulers come, and when the sidewalk plows are there, and I think also, you know, I think the town does, I mean, I've hemmed and hawed about this for a long time, I think we have to contemplate, and we'll see Brutus's infrastructure presentation later, but I think we also have to contemplate some additional investments in additional apparatus.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe with free cash, hopefully not having the snow and ice hold on it this year, maybe we can even buy another machine, you know, just to be out there in downtown and try to prioritize it to help people out too. You know, I think it's a two-way street. And I don't want to have anybody watching tonight feel like we're trying to take our responsibility and put it on other people, but I think it's a team effort. And right now, it's just citizens are just going out if they want to. There's really no message from the community, even myself, leadership saying, please do this, right?
Right.
Do the right thing.
Yeah, we need an educational campaign about it.
Educational campaigns about it, right?
Yeah, and also, well, that's why I mentioned like when do you start to plow? And the buildup of the snow, like when does it get to be too deep for people to walk in and, you know, maybe not be safe, right?
Well, the other thing too is don't forget, it doesn't have to be deep. You get an inch of snow, and we have it always depends on the weather pattern after, but if it freezes after,
Right.
then you got an inch of ice.
Yeah,
And we're treating the roadways, but we don't have equipment to salt sidewalks.
I know, so that's what I think about a lot too, is the maintenance of it, and when we get those freeze thaws, the sun comes out,
Too.
and then it freezes at night, and it's really, really slippery, like, that's not safe either. So we need some kind of maintenance of the sidewalks where people are gonna walk to the train station,
Yep.
yeah. Counselor Sheridan, do you have any comments about, like, where you live and how do you guys take care of the sidewalks?
Yeah, so I always did the sidewalk as if I was supposed to. And I honestly did.
Example A.
The only thing is, I live in the corner of Rest and Walnut,
Yeah.
so I can do the front, but I can't do that corner. So what I usually do is try to make it out to the street,
Yeah.
because that corner can get very high. So
Oh, right.
We push it up.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna give a person a ticket because the corner's not done.
Well, but that's a really good point, right? That's what I worry about, is that when it gets built up like that, how does anybody
You can't. Yeah.
get through that?
And so-
Well, I think, with our machines that, when we go out there after it's the big snow
Yeah.
blowers, we just shoot it over,
Right.
cut a path right through it. I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen pictures.
Well, yeah,
of it.
you can, but I can't, like Patrick can't
What I
shovel that.
usually do, right before the I just make it out the street.
But I
so,
think,
yeah.
it's like anything else that, we do as town officials, whether it's a public works thing, is, we're never gonna get it all the time, all the right, perfect, okay?
Right.
But if we look at something like this, and we actually get to a situation where, 95% of the sidewalks are clear, we get a call, over Walnut, Westnut, see the corners backed in, we send the machine over, and we clean it up. And we'd be able to do that. And that's just part of, getting it done. We get calls all the time, never mind as a sidewalk, we're out there plowing snow, and we push up the corner like on Jordan Road. That's a big one, because that's a tough one when you come down the hill.
Yeah.
So we'll go out there afterwards and, clean up that corner, we move the snow around, and do the best we can. Then people
Right, so
get
then
mad.
people can see coming out of the road, right?
Yeah, because you
See
can't,
down
it's a
the-
visibility issue.
Yeah.
That's for automobile traffic.
Yeah,
Of course, people get mad at us when we do that, 'cause put snow on the property.
Colby.
And it's
Yeah,
kind
you
of,
done?
we're going on with, like Jamie's point, two things are, my family owned a house in Brighton, and the neighbors there, they bought industrial snowblower. They all chipped together, and they just took turns doing it. And so about nonprofits, they're property owners that do it too. I mean, a lot of them already do it, like churches and,
I'd look at them as yes, and I'd
Yeah.
look at Dean College as yes,
Yeah.
because they,
because they do the driveway, they do their parking
yeah, I'll
lots
say,
anyway.
because you
Yeah.
guys can't say it. Who has a lot of walkers?
That's true.
Dean
Yeah.
College.
Yeah.
You guys can't say that, but I can say it. I'm not elected in this town. And I'm not throwing Dean College under the
No,
bus,
that's
but
true.
it's
Yeah.
two things. They're students, they're going downtown.
Right.
And that's part of, we want to, go to Santa Fe Burrito on Monday.
Right.
They're all Dean students. I love it going there too.
Great.
But, yeah, but
Plus, they
that's-
have the equipment too, because they're doing their own
Correct,
sidewalks.
that's right.
And they have once again, like I was talking about the other places, they have Bright Star or something, they have a landscape company that comes and
Right.
does all their stuff. It's no, and they do a lot of sidewalks, in all fairness.
Yeah.
In their area.
Yeah.
They stay on top of them.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a big, they're already doing it now anyways.
Yeah.
Jamie, there's a question in the chat, I think. Can you, is that from Ally? If Ally can,
slightest coating of ice or snow is a barrier and unsafe, so thank you for having the conversation and considering enforcing the clearing of such, with a smiley face. Thank you for the smiley face,
Thank
Ally.
you, Ally.
I always know you're smiling.
It's always,
And a big thumbs up,
Yeah.
Ally, too.
yeah,
So,
it's, you know, those are the things we have to remember,
yeah.
right? That for us, for some people, it might be easy to go through that, but,
Yeah.
and so
That's
that's what.
another level of hardship, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things I think about, like, well, what is that level of, like, if it's like 2 inches deep, you have to go shovel it, or do we want to get that specific?
No,
No.
you don't. Because when you do something like that, then you put a criteria on it, and it could, especially with snow, it can change within hours.
Right,
So, there could be 2 inches of snow at 6 AM in the morning, in the afternoon, it could be 3/4 inch of snow.
Right.
I would leave it, and this is my suggestion, is just kind of leave it open-ended, you need to clear your sidewalk.
yeah,
And then what's the kind of
Yeah.
you kind of go out there and.
you kind of all
Because the
understand that,
people are gonna
right?
do it anyways, and the people are gonna fight you on it, they're gonna fight you on it. So, if people say, no, I gotta clear my sidewalk, there's gonna be people that are gonna go out there and they're gonna shovel the sidewalk, they'll snowball the sidewalk, they'll put salt on there. There'll be people that will go out there at the beginning of the storm, the middle of the storm, the end of the storm. Other people wait 12 hours later, whatever, it kind of works out. But ultimately, we get goals, we clear our sidewalks to make safe passage. I
Right.
think, I've always found if you try to give it too specific, you kind of, you're limiting yourself, and it's also not good for them. So it's kind of a little more of an open-ended thing.
The original bylaw did not have a depth, but had a 12-hour
Right,
requirement to remove all snow and ice. So I think, thinking from Ally's perspective too, not just the snow, that's where the ice
Yeah.
is really
Yeah.
difficult. Somebody with a cane. We did hear George Conley's story several years ago in Hang Tai, right? He was really upset, and he should have been. Him and his wife took a huge spill in front of Hang Tai. Just want to make sure I note to everybody, there's 2 different greens on here. The DPW is taking responsibility for the dark green ones, or the thick, bold ones. Those are the main arteries. You'll see greens like over here and like some of the side streets. Those would not have any requirement associated with it, just a street, right? Just to highlight the street. So we don't have on here, like, residents on like some of the smaller streets are required to. That would be something where we need to make those pink. Because I think Brutus has already articulated to get another layer down on sidewalks that deep. And that's another question that, you don't have to do it now. You can see how this goes, tweak it down the line, but I mean, I just want to make sure everyone's aware that some of those little smaller residential streets in downtown are not either on here as required by property owner to remove and/or is not include the DPW removing those sidewalks. So they're inherently responsible to some degree anyway. Do I have that right, Brutus, or did I get that wrong?
No.
I did? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
now I'm confused, that's okay. So, looking at Dean Ave, Station 117 is right there.
Yep.
I assume, I kind of thought that they plowed that sidewalk anyways. Do they do that?
We do.
Do you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking at this map right now, everything that's in green
Yeah,
is actually, that's on our side, that's what we do.
That's right.
Now, the stuff that's being highlighted on pink,
Mm-hmm.
some of that, you can't tell which one's green, which one's not, but those are the ones that would be commercial or retail that would have to, those are the ones that would lift the burden off us.
okay. Because that's a new sidewalk too.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then we have the
Down
areas,
Dean Ave.
but then you have the
Somewhere,
areas
down
like
here.
Jamie's talking about, and a good one, where we just talked Dean. That sidewalk's never was added there before, so that's not on our list right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be, by an area type thing, which I think is an important one to do.
Thank you for this. This is great. Touching on why we're doing this. There's already a current need, as touched upon, particularly some of our lowest income communities are the ones that you see walking down, East Central to get to the groceries or
Yep.
to the train, and certainly making sure that we have shared accessibility for all users. Those are important, but especially as we look to rebuild a walkable core. Part of that is a culture in which you can reasonably expect to be able to use walking, to have walking access to your needs. Right? As soon as that becomes unreliable, you now have to change, or you have to buy a vehicle and start using that more regularly. You have to maybe move away, right? So a lot of it is about reliability. That's why this is important. And if you look to almost every walkable core in Massachusetts, there's some expectation for property owners to clear. The most recent census I could find was in 2012. MAPC did a census of 68 communities, and a lot had, downtown. So I think it's reasonable. Some of my questions that came up or thoughts. And I walked around and talked to some downtown business owners, and a lot were like, "Oh, we've already been doing it."
You've already what?
We've
already
already
been
been
doing
doing it.
Oh.
We didn't know we had to we could stop. So,
Well, let's,
cool.
maybe we shouldn't tell them.
Okay, you touched upon 140. That did come to mind. I mean, that's an important one. What is our ability to enforce the, is that our sidewalk to enforce and say that that's your responsibility?
State owns it.
Yeah, so like, is this enforceable anywhere on 140? I mean, or whatever, anywhere in the
I
state?
think-
Because
well, I
state-owned
think-
140 starts like more centrally than what we're labeling here, right?
Yeah, near Beaver Street, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't the
So
state
just
en-
past
state
Beaver
ends?
Street
Yeah.
out to the Bellingham state line, or Bellingham town line.
Right.
That's all the state. And then just right out here on the other side of, right, say by Shaw's out to Rentham. They own that.
Yeah.
But we maintain that. I mean, we clear those. We can. I think with this bylaw, it says it's not necessarily telling the state to do it, it's telling the commercial property behind it.
And we can do that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
For example, the big Y.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Cool. It would be, I guess that's just state highway and there's no owner. That's why you don't have it all the way up on the other side of 495 on 140. You're saying that's,
Yeah, that's not on my list now. We've never done it.
yeah.
I mean, any one of these, you all can add to the list anytime you want. And I'm gonna sit here and say I don't have the equipment to do it now. But
Yeah, but I
you
can't
can
even
add that whole
picture
road, you
the-
can
That's right.
add Chestnut Pleasant.
it's a good point.
It's true. You can add whatever you want, and I'm gonna have
I
to
guess,
figure out how to do
does
it.
Gorelick own that? Like, is it even a reason, is it even someone that we could reason, I don't even know who the,
Well, yeah, if Gorelick owns it,
Dairy Farmers of America, just.
Yeah.
sorry.
you tell them to do it.
Yeah, because that is the only area. How much of this mirrors like what, who was previously being asked before? Or did we never put a geographic label on it?
No, it was never, I think it was a downtown, wasn't it downtown?
There was never a geographic element to it. It was
Okay.
just kind of like as operations expanded and comments came in about school, school zones and stuff, we just added. And then through the years, Brutus and his team have been more efficient with certain things and salt and purchasing, and we've just been able to triage it through. And then it really, as Brutus said earlier, a couple snowstorms, a few years ago, just kind of expectations have gone up as they should.
Yeah.
And the money until this year in the budget never went up at all. So, actually it's a perfect time because we just did get the new snowblower plow, and we just did put in the full amount that we need for snow and ice removal in the budget this year. So,
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that, I would imagine it'll be a couple of winters. If this were to go in effect hypothetically now, for this coming winter, there'd be an educational year. and an operational year of like seeing how this all goes. And then I think you'd really be looking at the following winter to say, okay, you know, now we're gonna enforce it a lot more, or, you know,
Yeah.
do we need more money? Do we need more equipment? Like, what are the needs? Are people doing their jobs, you know? Kind of a debrief.
So, in terms of actual area, you know, I appreciate, for those at home,
can't
we
see
have
that.
a pedestrian demand analysis,
That's actually,
a somewhat outdated one, but.
no, this is a little different. This is one of our latest studies we did. And I was actually gonna show it tonight to the full council, but this came up. And it basically, our consultant looks at the high demand areas where sidewalks are.
Right.
And it's highlighted. You can see the two areas on here, that's the major ones in
Right.
town. So those are the ones we kind of really want to focus on.
Right, and that's what this is somewhat mirroring.
It does mirror it. It was
Yeah.
actually, we did a study, it came back, said, yeah, we knew that, but it's
Yeah.
validated by a third party, so that
Yeah.
means I'm okay.
Yeah. No, but that's why
Instead of
I
person
appreciate you,
said it.
you know, being thoughtful about labeling. The only one that stood out was getting that, the new Westerly
Yeah.
type
Okay.
residence to
Yep.
the Forge Park. That's really the only one that's like, you know, it's a pretty recent pedestrian demand, but it is a pedestrian demand. And just looking at, is that reasonable for us to put on those property owners, would be the only one that I would add. I was looking at a few others. It seems like 6 hours after a snowstorm is reasonable, but certainly open to thoughts. I definitely do think we need to enforce. I do think we can ramp up, you know, start at 25, but have it ramp up. That's an important piece of this. Ask those. And you know, just before we actually, you know, next time it would be nice to actually, you know, be voting on a policy, but we should loop in both the downtown partnership and do we still have the Dean neighborhood meetings going since? the
We'll find out this
secretary
evening,
left?
because President Elmore will be here, and then he'll also be here at the September 6th meeting. So I would imagine after summer, they'll probably kick back up again.
Got it.
But
They're
we don't
gonna
have,
start
just
in
to
the
be clear,
summer.
there's no date on the calendar that I'm aware of
Yeah.
yet, so.
So that, you know, that could be a worthwhile, that would be a worthwhile group to bring it to, because those are people living in and around the downtown.
Through you, Metro, I like where he's going with this. I'm wondering, the 6 hours is interesting because I do think expectations have risen up and
Yeah.
mobility is 24/7. But 6 hours is short. I'm wondering if a value statement in the bylaw even, as I'm reading it, about how encouraging property owners to not wait for the full 12 hours, but to try to consistently maintain that sidewalk for expanded mobility, at least would set a tone and kind of encourage people, right, to do it.
Yeah.
Might be something that might be like I think Kobe's point of the culture is really a good one. I think we want to build that culture of this is just inevitable and kindness matters and this is the thing we want to do.
Right, and let's
I
take
couldn't
care of,
agree with
let's
him more
take
on
care of our neighbors.
Yeah,
Make sure people
absolutely.
can get through safely.
And people walk downtown.
Yeah,
And like, we
Yeah.
are a town where people walk downtown.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can
And-
reasonably expect to live there and be able to walk to your basic.
And I think that's why I asked about, like, can we, like, make sure that people start, if there's 2 inches of snow, but I like that idea of just making it like, just go out there and take care of it, you know, and maintain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, lead with your expectations that you're
Yeah.
helping.
You'll be done by a
And
certain.
then sort of follow with, there are penalties if you choose not to
So,
help. your
Madam
Yeah.
Chair?
That's
Yes,
I like
Brutus.
that.
No, it's great what you say. I do think 6 hours is really, I think that'd be too short, because say the storm stops at 8 o'clock at night. You know, they could have it cleaned up at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, that ain't gonna happen. I can tell you from experience, and what is similar to this is the one-day-a-week watering. I can tell you, when that program started, it was like, people didn't do it. You know, but once you got the ball rolling, public education, it's good for our environment, and all the different reasons, you know, people in Franklin follow the one-day-a-week water. You know,
Yeah.
there's always gonna be someone, don't get me wrong. And those are people you have to deal with, whether it's 12 hours or 24 hours, right?
Right.
And I'll tell you what, one of the things that, you've heard me tell the story before, it's, folks tend to because the last thing I want to do, I'm already the snow police, okay? I'm the water police, I'm the trash police, and, you know, it's one of the banes of my job. I absolutely hate it. That's the last thing I want to do, is go and do it. But through public education, and if you get the right message out there, people police themselves.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's like, we want to call it like public shaming, but I mean, people out there that have the green lawn, you know, and their neighbor doesn't, you know,
Right.
they,
We-
they,
you know
they kind
why.
of feel bad.
Yeah.
And I always make the joke, it wasn't this year because we had the wettest spring ever, but, you know, like last year when the water conservation plan goes into effect, people send me stuff. You know, they circle Google Maps, you gotta check out this guy, or they go to talk to him, they do. You know, and they post you know, I'm not doing it, but I've seen people post on Facebook or somebody else saying, hey, can you believe this guy's watered? You know, someone in town.
Yeah.
And then everybody else sees it. So, you know, it's gotten to the point where, you know, like last year's, this year you can't say, but like last year we had a drought all July. You know, it is what it is. And, you know, that's a Franklin Brown lawn. We're kind of known for it. It's kind of like, some people like it's a pride. You know, I got a brown lawn Franklin. Some people say, I save money, right? But do you really want to be that one, I just say it to you now, is you're going to be that one resident or one business that doesn't do? You're going to look like a freaking idiot. I'm just telling you. Everybody, the whole road's done, but you don't do it.
Yeah.
Do you want to be that person, then you're going to come, and they will, there'll be someone that do it, and they'll fight, and they'll want their 12 hours, and they'll take a fine, because there are people that will take a fine
Yeah.
to, you know, go water their lawn. And there's really nothing we can do about that at the end of the day, because they don't care. But for the most part, and I really say like 99% of the time, I think it would take some public education, it's a lot of it, to get out there. And then it's just, you instill a sense of community, and then you instill a sense of just accomplishment. You know, it's all good. And then it just becomes a habit. You don't even think about it. It's just done.
I think, like, a public service announcement with Ally, what she just said to us, right?
Yeah.
I like to let people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so people are aware how difficult it is for some people to get through it, would make a
That's a great
huge
idea.
difference. I do have a question about, so the area that Kobe was mentioning, so it's just not on, you just don't have a color on it because you've never taken
Nope.
care of it before?
Nope.
Is that's why? Okay,
We've never gone past 495, the Pond Street.
okay,
We just don't.
all right. But I agree, I think that's a really important area to make sure that people can get around there.
The ideal would be that the property owners, because those would be large property
Yeah.
owners, right?
Yeah.
Their apartment, their landlords, their people with some,
They probably already
there's some
have
economies of scale
equipment.
there. that-
They have a contract with somebody ready to clear
Right,
out the
right,
road
right.
sidewalk, so.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
okay.
That'd be-
I
Yeah,
do.
I do too.
And there actually
If you
aren't
look
many
at-
property owners over there?
If you look at
Actually, yeah, like
Is what?
actually, there aren't as
Aren't
many
many, yeah.
property owners over there as one would think. Because the properties are very wide. Dairy Farmers of America are the Burnham Family Trust. They own numerous parcels.
Yeah,
So it's not as many as we think, and I think we've already hammered out all the other, I think it's a good idea, and see what happens. I mean, if
yeah,
people
so
don't
just-
like it, they'll let us know.
Just so you're clear with my message to you, I'm really happy if they do it. Please don't ask me to add to my list.
Right, right.
no,
No, they want to put it
I
in
just
pink.
wanted to know why we
No,
had,
pink.
why we don't, I was
Just saying
thinking,
put it in pink.
Pink, pink.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'm
we
just
put it in
saying,
pink.
I want
Pretty pink.
I want the commercial properties to do it, not me.
Yeah.
Because it's
We
gonna
put it in
split.
pink, but I just wanted to clarify why it wasn't in pink yet. It's because we've never done it before.
We've never done it before.
That's all I wanted to understand.
Absolutely.
Kobe, I think you still have some
Yeah,
questions?
my only other thought with all of this, this is the policy piece, but there is still a practice piece of, you know, how we choose to prioritize. And I've raised this before. I'll take the opportunity to raise it again. Currently, we have at max operation like 16 plows going around town,
I'm not sure you're asking.
full plows.
Like our trucks,
Yeah.
we put about 32 out. And then
32.
And then we hire anywhere, not where I want to be, but we put about 65. We'd probably like to be up to 80 something.
Wow.
Contractors.
Yeah.
And that's just for the roadways.
Yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
have 4 basically dedicated sidewalk machines.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I don't know why it's 30, yeah, that's a lot. And it's my understanding that current practice is, you know, the first sidewalk doesn't get touched until the last road is finished. And I've raised this,
Roads, sidewalks are also behind public buildings,
right,
police station, fire station, town hall, schools, then sidewalks.
yeah.
That's the third tier that we do.
Yeah, and I think that as we look to change culture, certainly not, all hands on deck, switching to sidewalk, but if we could put one or two people, after the first 6 hours of having 90 people tackling the roads, that helps us create this culture where people can rely on having clear sidewalks. I rarely get feedback on my random statements throughout. That was one of the most popular statements I ever made in terms of just having random people reach out to me and say thank you. So I do think that there is a demand for a little more timely clearance of essentially on here the green routes.
So-
and not waiting until it's the last thing.
And then, the thing about snow, it's not like cutting grass. Actually, cutting grass, it's really, every storm's different.
Right.
And I say as a public works director, it's the perfect example of everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback. You should have done this way, you should have done that way, you should, and it's just a way. And we try to do the best we can, and, I feel I do it correct, 99% of the time, boss? Maybe
Yeah.
once I messed up. But no, it happens. But just in an operational type thing, we think of the downtown, the more denser areas, we actually really have to stop plowing the roadways first, because we'd be doing the same thing over, because if we're still plowing the snow, we push, a lot of times we push the snow on the sidewalks. So
Right.
once we're done plowing, then we can start working on sidewalks. Maybe some areas are looked at that we're doing the same time as clearing a school or something like that, or a municipal building. You follow me? But we have to at least, it would make no sense, I'm just being honest with you, in these dense areas, to keep plowing snow and do sidewalks at the same time, because they're just gonna be going, one's throwing it one way, one's throwing it the other way, so.
Yeah, but this is how the conversation went last time, and I think partly I might be misunderstood. I mean, we're already prioritizing certain areas, right?
Correct.
There's a certain amount that, right, I'm not saying put someone on a sidewalk, a sidewalk plow the first time we put a road plow out, but by the time we've hit the main areas, right, which you have your main loop, now we're getting into the least dense roads in town. While we're like redoing those least dense roads in town, we can have
To correct
one
you,
or two people.
that's not how it works. So we have, the whole town is basically being done. When we're plowing, we have vehicles everywhere at the same time. So you could be way out on Maple Street, like, we're not doing our section 140, that's not an example, but we're not doing, I don't know, Oak Street before Oak Tree Lane. You know what I'm saying? They're all being done at the same time. We have vehicles everywhere. So it's not like the downtown gets cleared before the outside town. Everything's being done at the same time.
Okay, I always thought whatever.
trucks.
That's,
5 truck.
that's for salting. You are correct about that. That's when we go out and salt. So we have the priority areas for salting,
Got it,
and then we'll
got it.
tier up, and then we might salt the whole town, and that takes longer.
Got it.
But when we actually put plows out, there's a plow going to the north side of town, east side, west side, everything in between. That's where we want to be. Everybody's plowing at the same time.
Because of safety.
And then sometimes the downtown might be done first, sometimes it can be done last, depending on equipment shows up and stuff like that. But our idea is basically, we're all doing the same thing, we're all finishing at the same time, whatever that duration is.
Okay,
And
that's
that's
helpful. I'll still sort of let my point stand that as much as we can continue to prioritize sidewalks amongst, our many priorities when a snowstorm hits.
Sure.
Jamie, do you have,
Thank you, Manager. I think the message, I hope this is what Kobe wants to hear. We're hearing a possible 20% reduction in responsibility from the town,
yeah.
where that can essentially get reallocated. It's not going to be like a Google search, which just instantaneously flick a switch and it changes. But I think to the word culture, and the more that this reduces their responsibility, and hopefully we can look at investments in equipment. Maybe at some point we can just prioritize downtown and Franklin Crossing with almost a dedicated piece of equipment to find a way through you and Carlos depending on the storm, into the operations to just say, like, we're now freeing up time and guys to go do this. We're gonna prioritize the next sidewalk area. We're really gonna double down in Franklin Crossing in the downtown, especially because those people on this map now have a legal responsibility with some teeth to do that neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I hope that that's the direction you
Yeah, yeah,
wanna
yeah.
go, what you're really aiming to go, is to say, if there's a next spot to really hone in on and get down to the brick and the asphalt and the cement, it's the sidewalks in and around the main core
Yeah.
Right.
of Franklin Crossing.
Right.
The one question I had for the group before adjourned is, in Councilor Sheridan's neighborhood, east, west, that area right now is DPW responsibility. I'm not trying to we already know that Patrick
Yeah.
didn't know that it came up. I'm just looking at that area as one other high, that's a high walkable area. And we do know of some people over there with disabilities. Does the council think that area should be turned pink? Again, doubling our efforts, you got two-way street, you got the residents plus you got the DPW that we're talking about here, but that seems like a high, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like a very walkable place from a lot of Dean College kids, a lot of residents, there's some people with disabilities I know over in that area.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a helpful area, but I don't want to pile too much on everybody either.
Right. I'm kind of surprised it's not pink,
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
I'm reflecting on it
But,
literally right now.
Because it is, what do you think?
I agree.
You live there, so you tell us.
Yeah,
And I was thinking about the station apartments too.
yeah.
Since they have their own equipment that they're always using for their own sidewalks, why not?
Right.
Well, that's
I think
here.
a way to look at
That's here.
this
I know, both.
Yeah, but we're, yeah.
is we're pretty darn close to getting downtown commercial district
Yep.
and general residential 5.
And
The
Dean-
only place that isn't general residential 5 is the exact place that you're,
Right.
that's still in green, is the place that you're signifying. So, as we look to say that like culture is about, where we zone and are we looking to, create certain neighborhoods in certain places, I think using those as the building off point, which includes, so, I don't know, that's where I would go on in terms of like the next map would be, Church, Walnut, East.
West, all the
and West.
Mason.
This side of West.
And I'd say that section of Union Street.
There's a certain
And
amount
the
of.
section,
That they
that's what
connect
actually brought it
the
up, was the
flat.
section of Union Street.
Yeah.
That whole little triangle right there.
Yeah.
That
That
does get
area.
a lot of walkable
Yeah.
folks that
Yes.
to
The
go back
train,
and
everything,
forth.
the
Yeah.
playground.
And we're the property owner, so we would end up
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that, which again, kind of highlights the plow will get down there too and help out,
Yeah.
Right.
especially on big storms.
Yeah.
And I guess just bring it, if everybody's comfortable with that, if you move forward with the bylaw proposal, we'll do a redo of the map to make sure it's clear for the next meeting, but the worst thing that can happen is we have a debate with the full council and we
Yeah, yeah.
reduce streets. I don't know, but I think that's an area that just has a lot of foot traffic
Yeah.
on
I
Franklin
think so
Crossing.
too. And it's
Union
downtown,
Street.
it's like you can
Yeah,
walk all through there all the
yeah,
time.
okay, I appreciate that,
How
thank
about the
you.
station apartments up to, where's that now?
That's already there.
That's there.
okay.
So Station 117 is
Yeah.
here, that's Dean, goes all the way up.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So
the
that's
other one
all- that's
the other
already in
one
there.
that's GR5, and that came to my mind was the Alpine.
Yeah,
That.
in Milliken, that neighborhood.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is,
To me
it's
is
up
the
to you
same.
guys, I mean,
that's very walkable too. Yes.
it is very walkable, and it's consistent along East Central Street, and to Kobe's point earlier,
It's not, and it's not green.
it's
Yeah,
not.
some
We
of
don't
it's
do
not.
those, we just do that one stretch on Milliken, so if we want to add that neighborhood too, I think that probably makes a lot of sense.
I think so.
I
Okay.
think it does.
Yeah.
All right, that's great.
Okay. Anybody have
So,
any other comments?
Real quick, so we're gonna come up with a plan, the roads we talked about, come up with a map.
Well, if Kate redo the map
Oh, yeah,
based on
so I
these
wanna-
3
I
or
wanna
4
make sure-
adjustments.
I mean,
Right.
I got the notes and we'll go over Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna do, but we're also considering, the other commercial properties too, and then also the zoning areas, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And then I'll work with the town attorney.
All right, give us some
in
language.
his amazing summer coat.
I was gonna say,
And
he looks pretty
maybe I'll
spiffy
talk
over
straight
there.
to the
Look at him.
coat. But we'll work with him on some of that language, Madam Chair, and at the next EDC meeting, we'll bring it back and we can wordsmith it or just talk about the kind of value statement. But if everybody's comfortable with the former bylaw, I am. We just need to amend it a little bit. But the former bylaw was written well, it just got repealed.
Right, I know.
And I think we just need to add on some of what we've talked about at this meeting.
Yes, let's
Right,
add on,
say, you know, look to the map.
add on
And a
our,
second, yeah, exactly, reference to the map and a second, violation, third violation.
yes.
Yeah, I would do
And
that.
and we'll just
Yeah.
look back at the rest of the code and make it commensurate with other, like maybe the water fines,
Yeah,
make it
Mark's
similar.
good with that. He'll come up with a fine that's
Right.
appropriate. We
Right.
do. No, because they're all gonna line up,
Right,
Right,
so.
right.
right. Okay,
Fantastic.
hey,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.